Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, money slips through your fingers, your health keeps dipping, or your home feels strangely heavy, like the air itself is tired? What if I told you the reason could be as simple as something sitting right next to your TV? Not your front door, not your bed, not your altar, but your television. Yes, the screen you watch every single day. It might sound strange at first, but in feng shui, the TV is not just a harmless device. It's a high-energy magnet. It radiates heat, light, sound, and electromagnetic waves almost nonstop. And what you place around it, those harmless decorations, plants, books, clocks, could actually be blocking your wealth, draining your health, and even causing tension in your relationships. I didn't believe it either until I saw it unfold in my own space. And today, on New Day Mindfulness, I'm going to show you the 3 most common things that may be silently damaging your fortune and inner balance, just because they're too close to your TV. You'll also learn how to reset that energy and transform your living space into a magnet for peace, prosperity, and clarity. But before we begin, if you believe your home should support your success and protect your well-being, please take one moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you care about. Your support helps me reach 1,000 subscribers so I can continue bringing thoughtful, grounded content to our mindful community. Let's begin the shift. Section 1. Why the TV matters more than you think. The television is arguably one of the most familiar and beloved devices in the modern household. It connects us to stories, information, entertainment, and moments of bonding with family and friends. We often view it as neutral or harmless, just a screen that we turn on and off. But in truth, the TV is far more than a passive box. It's one of the most energetically active zones in any home, constantly emitting a combination of heat, sound, light, and electromagnetic waves that influence more than just our ability to relax. It shapes how we think, how we feel, how we sleep, and yes, even how our fortune unfolds inside our living space. Let's start with a basic question. What does a television actually do when it's turned on? From a scientific perspective, a TV functions by converting electrical signals into visual images and sound. That alone involves complex inner circuitry, including electromagnetic fields, high-frequency pulses, pixel arrangements, and sound vibrations. To power this process, televisions generate heat, often sustained over long periods, especially if your TV is on for several hours a day. The average modern household watches TV for 3 to 5 hours daily. That's a quarter of your waking life spent in front of a high-frequency machine. This consistent exposure doesn't go unnoticed by your body, your mind, or the energy dynamics in your home. Let's break down the types of energy emitted by your TV and how each interacts with your personal space. 1. Heat. A silent influence. Most people don't think of their television as a heat source, but it is. Televisions, especially larger LED, LCD, or OLED models, produce a surprising amount of heat. This heat often goes unnoticed because it radiates gradually and is typically dispersed across a wide surface. But over time, even mild heat emissions can affect the moisture balance in the room, impact surrounding materials, and shift the microclimate of the corner in which the TV is placed. From a health perspective, sitting for long hours near a subtle heat source can result in dehydration or dry skin. For plants or objects stored near the TV, such as books, documents, or wooden shelves, the ambient heat can accelerate deterioration. You may notice books yellowing faster or surfaces becoming more brittle or faded. This heat is also known to disrupt airflow and can subtly increase temperature fluctuations in the room, which may affect sleep quality if the television is located in a bedroom. In energetic terms, heat corresponds to the fire element: fast, vibrant, active. If not balanced correctly, fire can overactivate a space, leading to restlessness, overstimulation, or fatigue, especially when it exists in excess. 2. Sound. Constant vibrational output. Television is, by design, an audiovisual device. While the video captures the eye, the sound directly stimulates the nervous system. Television sound is more than just background noise. Even when you're not actively listening, your subconscious brain registers the tone, volume, pace, and emotional undercurrents of what's playing. Sound carries vibrational energy. Depending on what you watch, news, dramas, intense action scenes, loud commercials, or arguments in reality shows, the vibrations can range from calming to deeply chaotic. Your body absorbs this through the nervous system. Your heartbeat may elevate. Your breathing may change rhythm. Your muscles may subtly tense in response to conflict or suspense, even if it's fictional. Now imagine what happens when this sound stimulation is consistent, long-term, and unfiltered. The problem becomes even more pronounced when the TV is left on while no one is actively watching it. Many people keep the TV on as background noise, thinking it brings comfort or liveliness to the home. But from an energetic standpoint, it's like injecting random, chaotic frequencies into your space, sometimes violent, sometimes sorrowful, sometimes aggressive, all without conscious control. Over time, this type of vibrational input can influence mood, increase irritability, or amplify existing anxiety, particularly for sensitive individuals, children, or pets. The TV becomes a low-frequency stressor that the mind has to silently process. 3. Light. Artificial rhythms that affect sleep and mood. Light governs many biological systems in the human body, especially our circadian rhythm. The blue light emitted by televisions, especially modern high-definition screens, has a direct impact on melatonin production, which in turn affects how well you sleep, how refreshed you feel, and how your body restores itself at night. Exposure to blue light in the hours leading up to bedtime suppresses melatonin and delays the onset of sleep. That's why experts often suggest limiting screen exposure in the evening. Yet many homes position the TV directly opposite the bed, encouraging nighttime viewing until the body is too fatigued to resist. Beyond sleep, light also impacts mood. Natural light, for example, triggers serotonin production and helps regulate emotional balance. Artificial light, especially intense, strobing, or color-saturated visuals common in modern TV content, can overstimulate the eyes and overwork the brain's processing centers. You may feel drained after watching too much, even if you didn't do anything physically demanding. Moreover, from a feng shui perspective, excessive bright light in a concentrated space, especially artificial light, creates an imbalance in yin and yang. It overactivates yang energy, resulting in an environment that lacks restfulness, comfort, and subtlety. If your home feels overly loud or intense, the lighting from the TV could be contributing to that overstimulation. 4. Electromagnetic waves, the invisible disruptor. Perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of the TV is its electromagnetic field, EMF. Every electronic device emits EMFs, but the TV's field is especially significant because of its size, power usage, and proximity to living spaces. Although scientific opinions vary on the long-term health impact of EMFs, many sensitive individuals report experiencing fatigue, headaches, mental fog, or agitation after long-term exposure. Some experts believe EMFs can interfere with the natural electromagnetic field of the human body, which governs cellular communication, sleep cycles, and neurological balance. In the practice of energetic awareness, whether through Buddhist insight, Taoist spatial philosophy, or energy medicine, there is recognition that every space holds a field. EMF-heavy zones disrupt that field. They can interfere with meditation, concentration, creativity, and even emotional regulation. If you've ever found it hard to feel peaceful in a room with an always-on TV, even if it's turned off, the lingering electromagnetic residue might be part of the problem. That's why it's often recommended that sleeping areas, meditation corners, or reading nooks be kept several feet away from television sets or equipped with shielding tools, such as grounding mats, natural wood partitions, or live plants known to absorb EMF. Personal experience. When I started noticing the shift, I used to think the TV was harmless background. Like most people, I placed my television in the living room, surrounded by books, a clock, a few photos, and even a beautiful peace lily. Over time, I began to feel a heaviness in that corner of the home, like something was off. My sleep became shallow, Conversations with family felt more strained. I had trouble focusing while reading. At first, I blamed stress, diet, work, but the tension lingered. Eventually, I started experimenting. I moved the books away, shifted the clock to another wall, and placed the plant closer to natural light. I even started unplugging the TV when not in use. And I kid you not, the entire energy of that space changed. It felt calmer. My mind settled faster in the evenings. Arguments became less frequent. I even started sleeping deeper. That's when I realized the space around the TV is more powerful than I ever thought. It's not just about furniture placement, it's about energetic awareness, the energetic role of the TV in feng shui and beyond. In classical feng shui, the TV is classified under the fire and metal elements. Fire because of its heat and light emissions, and metal due to its structure, signal processing, and electromagnetic nature. Both of these elements are active, stimulating, and powerful. When left unbalanced, they can create an excess of yang energy, fast, hot, volatile. This doesn't mean the TV is inherently bad. It simply means that where and how we place it and what we place around it should be intentional. Because it is an energy amplifier, anything near it will be influenced by its field. For example, placing a mirror across from the TV doubles the yang energy, amplifying stress and mental noise. Placing a plant next to it, wood, may suffer because fire burns wood. The plant may wilt. Placing a water feature near it may create a clash. Water extinguishes fire, destabilizing energy. Placing sacred objects, such as a Buddha statue, can lead to energetic interference due to the chaotic nature of TV emissions. Instead, the TV area should be treated with the same care as a kitchen or meditation space. It deserves balance, grounding, and clear intention. Why this awareness matters for modern living. In today's world, we are constantly surrounded by devices, phones, tablets, computers, TVs, smart home systems. Each of them emits energy that interacts with us, whether we notice it or not. The television is just one, but because of its size and placement, it often becomes the energetic anchor of the home. If we overlook this anchor, we unintentionally allow chaos, imbalance, and overstimulation to settle at the heart of our living space. But if we become aware, if we consciously choose how to arrange, buffer, and moderate our use of this device, we can reclaim a sense of calm, clarity. And so the next time you turn on your TV, ask yourself not just, what am I watching, but also, what is this device doing to the space around me? And more importantly, what am I allowing it to affect in my life? Your TV is not just a screen, it's a silent influencer. Once you understand that, you'll never look at your living room the same way again. Section 2. 3 objects that disturb your energy near the TV. Books and the television. An invisible conflict of energy. Books are more than paper and ink. They are powerful representations of wisdom, stillness, and inner exploration. When we think of a peaceful room, it's easy to imagine bookshelves lining the walls, a soft chair in the corner, and a quiet atmosphere inviting focus and growth. But in the real world, these scenes are often interrupted by modern technology, especially the television, which has become the centerpiece of most living spaces. At first glance, placing books near your television might seem harmless. In fact, it's incredibly common. Many people have bookshelves built into entertainment centers or place novels and decor near the TV for aesthetic balance. But energetically and practically, this seemingly innocent setup may be working against you. Over time, I've come to understand that placing books near the television is not just a poor design choice. It's a fundamental mismatch of energy that can disturb your home's balance, your ability to concentrate, and even the health of your relationships and finances. Let's first look at this through the lens of elemental energy, specifically the 5 elements theory rooted in Eastern traditions like feng shui. In this framework, books are aligned with the wood element. Wood represents growth, structure, learning and calm development. It is steady, life-giving, and deeply nourishing, much like a tree offering shade and wisdom through age. The television, on the other hand, embodies 2 opposing elements, fire and metal. Fire, due to its emission of heat, light, and constant stimulation. Metal, because of its technological circuitry, hard surface, and signal-based operation. These two elements, especially fire, are highly active. They stir motion, demand attention, and flood a space with intensity. Now, wood feeds fire in the five-element cycle. That means when wood and fire are placed together, the wood element can fuel the fire until it grows too strong. In the energetic sense, this translates to mental burnout. The calm, focusing energy that books are supposed to generate becomes overwhelmed. Instead of supporting clarity and growth, that wood energy gets consumed, leaving behind stress, mental clutter, and inattentiveness. To put it plainly, books need stillness and televisions destroy stillness. The result is not always immediate, but over time, the conflict becomes noticeable in mood, focus, and overall energy. I once heard a story from a parent, a working mother, who was deeply concerned about her 10-year-old son. His grades had begun slipping. He couldn't sit still during homework, and he was growing increasingly agitated in the evenings. She tried everything, tutoring, new sleep routines, limiting sugar, but nothing worked. Until one day she noticed that her son's homework desk was placed just below a wall-mounted television. Even when the TV was off, the light from the standby screen glowed, and his books were kept in a drawer beside the unit. She made a simple change, moved the desk to the other side of the room near the window, and brought in a small bookshelf that was separated from electronics. Within a month, his focus returned. His reading habits improved, his sleep stabilized. What changed wasn't the child, it was the energy of his study environment and the response. This kind of shift is more common than people realize. When you place books near the TV, you unconsciously set up a battle between stillness and stimulation. One pulls you inward, the other demands your senses. It's like trying to meditate with a drum playing beside you. Beyond the energetic conflict, there are also practical reasons to avoid this placement. Televisions emit heat, not enough to burn, but enough to warm the surrounding space. That ambient heat dries the air and affects nearby materials. Books, particularly older ones or those made with untreated paper, are highly sensitive to moisture and temperature fluctuations. Prolonged exposure to heat can cause pages to warp, spines to crack, and colors to fade. If you've ever pulled a book from near your TV and found it stiff, yellowing, or strangely brittle, now you know why. There's also dust accumulation. The static charge produced by TV screens naturally attracts dust. And guess what collects that dust most easily? Paper. Book covers, especially those with fabric or matte textures, begin to look dingy. Over time, they can even develop a faint odor if the dust mixes with indoor humidity, a silent signal that the book is aging faster than it should. Electromagnetic interference is another overlooked problem. Modern televisions emit EMFs, electromagnetic fields, especially when operating at high brightness, resolution, or volume. While research is still ongoing about the full effects of EMFs on humans, it's well documented that these fields can affect the functionality of nearby electronics, and they don't exactly nourish organic materials either. Books that contain metal ink, like in some gilded editions, laminated covers, or even photos can degrade faster under such influence. Then there's the subconscious psychological tension. Imagine sitting down with a thoughtful novel about spirituality, growth, or philosophy, and right behind or beside it is a screen that, when on, blasts you with advertising, action scenes, or news headlines. Even when turned off, the television dominates the visual field. It signals interruption. It says, at any moment I could turn and pull your attention away. This undermines your ability to relax and immerse in the book. Your brain knows the TV is there. It anticipates distraction. That's why many people struggle to read deeply in rooms with too many digital devices, especially when the books and screens are too close together. Let's consider another example. A young couple trying to save money decided to cancel most of their streaming services and read more books together in the evenings. They set up a reading area, 2 cozy chairs and a shared shelf, right in front of their television. But week after week, they found themselves slipping back into old habits, turning the TV back on, skipping reading, and feeling scattered again. Once they moved their books to a separate room, no TV, no digital noise, something shifted. Their routine became easier to maintain. They read more, they talked more. Their evenings felt calmer. Again, the change was subtle, but powerful. Their books were no longer energetically competing with the television. So what can you do if your space is limited and you have no choice but to share a room between books and the TV? There are still solutions. Try creating a visual and energetic buffer between them. Use a wooden partition, a piece of art, or a solid plant, like a snake plant or bamboo, and to break the line of energy between the books and the screen. Avoid stacking books directly on the TV stand. Instead, store them in a closed cabinet, away from the direct influence of the TV's heat and EMFs. Another great tip is to keep the TV unplugged when not in use. Not only does this save electricity, but it also stops the device from emitting low-level radiation. You can also cover the screen with a decorative cloth or wall panel if the TV is in a room used for reading or study. This helps reduce visual stimulation and brings the room into greater balance. From a design perspective, creating dedicated zones, even within one room, can make a world of difference. Use rugs, lighting, or small furniture shifts to separate the reading space from the viewing space. That way your nervous system can feel the shift as you move between them. And if you're someone who treasures your books, whether for learning, self-development, or even spiritual exploration, give them the respect of a calm environment. Let them live in peace, away from the buzz and glow of the screen. Because while books can teach us powerful lessons, they can't do it in a room full of noise. In conclusion, books and televisions are two powerful tools. One fuels the mind, the other fuels the senses. But when placed side by side, their energies can clash, draining your focus, disrupting your calm, and even damaging the materials over time. By understanding the invisible dialogue between these objects, you can create a home that supports your clarity, peace, and personal growth, without sacrificing comfort or style. B. Clocks in the television, a conflict of rhythm and stimulation. At first glance, clocks and televisions don't seem to have much in common. One is analog, the other digital. One ticks gently in the background, the other flashes images and sounds. But in many homes, these two objects are placed side by side and unknowingly create a subtle yet powerful clash that can ripple into your sleep, focus, finances, and emotional well-being. Clocks are foundational to how we experience life. They mark our routines. They signal the passing of time. A clock in the home is more than a timekeeping tool. It's a symbol of order, discipline, and the quiet continuity of life. Think about it, a ticking wall clock or the silent rotation of an elegant analog timepiece brings rhythm into a room. Whether you're aware of it or not, a clock influences your subconscious, reminding you of structure, goals, and momentum. Televisions, on the other hand, are chaotic in nature. They are dynamic, fast-moving, and unpredictable. While a clock operates on a steady loop, the TV is a stream of light and sound, changing visuals, shifting emotions, storylines that move from comedy to tragedy to suspense in a matter of minutes. It is not rooted in continuity. It thrives on variety, drama, and sensory stimulation. The result is a constant pull on your attention and energy. So what happens when these two objects are placed side by side? To understand the deeper conflict, we have to examine not only their physical attributes, but their symbolic energies. Clocks, from a feng shui perspective, represent the flow of time and the cycle of life. They belong to the metal element, precise, clear, reflective. The movement of the hands or the pendulum carries subtle energy that can regulate the rhythm of the room. In a quiet setting, a clock's gentle presence can actually enhance productivity or create a sense of inner peace. It acts like a metronome, calming, even meditative. Now enter the television. TVs also contain metal elements due to their circuitry and frame, but they primarily exhibit fire energy due to the light, sound, and stimulation they produce. Fire energy is expansive, vibrant, and erratic. When activated, it can overpower the steadiness of a clock, disrupting its calm influence with flashes, pulses, and random auditory bursts. The result is an energetic mismatch. Where the clock wants to say, slow down, follow the rhythm, the television shouts, Look here, react, stay stimulated. That push and pull, hour after hour, creates tension not only in the environment but in your own nervous system. This is why many people report feeling more anxious, overwhelmed, or wired after watching TV in a room where a ticking clock is also nearby, especially late at night. The subconscious mind struggles to reconcile the dual cues: structure versus stimulation, focus versus distraction, silence versus noise. You might not realize it consciously, but your brain is juggling two conflicting patterns of input. This overstimulation can lead to restlessness, shallow sleep, irritability, or even decision fatigue. There's also the issue of time anxiety, a modern condition where people become obsessed with time slipping away. When you pair the time-bound nature of a clock with the addictive nature of television, which can consume hours without your awareness, the result is often a quiet panic. You glance at the clock, realize you've lost track of time, and then feel guilty or pressured. This mental loop leads to decreased productivity and increased internal conflict. I once spoke with a retired executive who told me that even after retirement, she always felt stressed in her living room, the place she was supposed to feel most relaxed. Her doctor had ruled out health issues. Her home was beautifully designed. But after several conversations, we discovered that her television sat directly beneath a large wall-mounted clock. Every time she watched the news, her eyes flicked back and forth between the action on the screen and the minute hand ticking upward. "I didn't even know I was doing it," she said, "but I always felt like I was running out of time, even when I had nowhere to be." Once she removed the clock from that wall and moved it into her kitchen, the change was profound. "The room feels lighter," she told me a week later, "like it's not judging me anymore." That's not an uncommon experience. Clocks near the television unintentionally introduce a psychological undertone of urgency. Your brain watches the action, but also counts the minutes, creating a feeling that time is being wasted, even if you are intentionally relaxing. The result is often guilt, tension, or a compulsion to multitask during leisure, which is the opposite of restoration. There's also a more subtle physiological factor at play: rhythmic disruption. The human body is wired for rhythm. Our heartbeats, breathing cycles, hormonal release, and even sleep patterns are all regulated by internal clocks, what scientists call circadian rhythms. External rhythms, like those of clocks, can either reinforce or disrupt those internal processes. When a clock is well placed, in a quiet study, a hallway, or near a working area, it helps anchor our biological sense of time. But when placed near a TV, its steady rhythm is thrown into chaos. Think about it. A ticking clock beside a screen that changes visuals every half second is like putting a violin next to a jackhammer. One creates harmony, the other breaks it. This constant competition between order and disruption interferes with your body's ability to regulate its own internal timing. That's why people with TVs and clocks in the same room often report difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up feeling refreshed. Their body never truly returns to its natural rhythm because the external environment is telling it two conflicting stories. From a design standpoint, the pairing is also problematic. A clock, especially an analog one, invites the eye to slow down, to observe, to pause, to consider the passage of time. A television, by contrast, speeds up your eye movements, encourages scanning, and pulls your attention outward. Having both in the same visual field overstimulates the optic nerve and contributes to visual fatigue. There's also the energetic symbolism to consider. In Feng Shui, clocks are associated with endings, the idea that time eventually runs out. That's why placing a clock in the bedroom is traditionally discouraged, as it can signal premature aging, energy depletion, or relationship instability. Pairing that energy with a television, which already activates the room with fire, intensifies the imbalance. The home becomes not a place of refuge, but a source of chronic stimulation and pressure. Now, does this mean clocks are bad? Not at all. When used correctly, clocks are wonderful allies for time management, discipline, and structure, but their placement must be intentional. If you must have a clock in the same room as your television, here are some practical guidelines. Do not hang the clock directly above the TV. This vertical alignment visually and energetically weighs down the screen and puts pressure on the viewer. Avoid placing the clock on the same wall as the TV. Let each object have its own space. Position the clock where it's visible, but not in direct competition with the screen, such as on a side wall, bookshelf, or console or table. Choose a silent clock or one with soft ticking if the room is used for relaxation. Loud ticks near high-stimulation devices add to tension. Opt for analog clocks with smooth, sweeping hands instead of choppy motion. This supports energetic flow. Consider the room's primary use. If it's for relaxation, keep time indicators subtle. If it's a workspace, more prominent clocks may enhance focus. Another suggestion, take a break from visible time altogether. In our hyper-connected world, we are constantly checking our phones, glancing at our laptops, or watching digital clocks on appliances. Sometimes the most restorative gift you can give yourself is a time-free zone. No clocks, no screens, just presence. This kind of environment supports nervous system recovery, emotional healing, and creative flow. If you use your TV area primarily for family bonding or entertainment, let that space hold the energy of connection, not countdowns. Let time melt away for a while. You can always glance at the kitchen clock or your wristwatch if needed. The living room doesn't need to remind you of deadlines. It should be the place you return to for grounding and joy. In summary, the conflict between clocks and televisions is not just about furniture placement. It's about rhythm versus randomness, order versus overload. By separating the two, you restore a sense of coherence in your space. You reclaim control over how time is perceived, felt, and experienced in your home. And most importantly, you give your nervous system a break from the silent battle between ticking time and flashing screens. A small change that can make a big difference in your daily well-being. C. Plants in the television. A silent struggle between nature and technology. In nearly every design magazine, interior Pinterest board, or lifestyle blog, you'll find an image of a beautiful leafy plant placed next to a sleek, modern television. On the surface, it seems like the perfect blend of modern and natural, technology and tranquility. But in reality, this combination may be quietly causing harm to the plant, to your energy field, and to the harmony of your home environment. Plants are living beings. They breathe, they respond to light, they sense temperature, and they even react to the emotions of the people around them. Energetically, plants embody the wood element, growth, vitality, renewal. In both feng shui and biophilic design, green plants are known to purify energy, invite abundance, and uplift the qi, life force of any room. Televisions, by contrast, are anything but natural. They emit fire energy, heat, light, stimulation, and also produce electromagnetic radiation, especially when used for long periods. Placing a plant near a TV means placing life next to a source of subtle chaos. And while the plant may appear fine for a few days or weeks, over time the energetic and environmental stress begins to take a toll. Let's first examine this from a physical perspective. When a television is turned on, it releases heat across the surface and into the surrounding space. While not intense enough to burn, this heat changes the microclimate around it. Most indoor plants prefer a relatively stable environment with moderate warmth, consistent humidity, and good airflow. When exposed to the dry heat of a television, especially for long periods, plants begin to dehydrate. Their leaves lose moisture faster, and their roots may stop functioning efficiently. The signs are subtle at first. The leaves droop more quickly. They start turning yellow or developing brown tips. The plant may stop growing altogether despite regular watering. Eventually, some leaves shrivel or fall off, and you're left wondering why your once thriving pothos or peace lily is struggling in that one particular corner of the living room. The reason isn't lack of care, it's poor placement. There's also the issue of light. Most houseplants require natural light, or at the very least, full-spectrum, artificial light that mimics daylight. Televisions don't provide that. They emit flickering, color-shifting light that confuses the plant's internal photoreceptors. While it may seem like the plant is getting some light from the TV, that light isn't useful for photosynthesis. In fact, It can disrupt the plant's growth cycle, leading to slow death disguised as a slow decline. Electromagnetic interference is another major factor. Modern televisions emit EMFs, electromagnetic fields, especially when connected to Wi-Fi, smart devices, or Bluetooth. While there is limited scientific data on the exact impact of EMFs on plant health, early studies suggest that prolonged exposure may affect their cellular structure, growth rates, and even the absorption of nutrients. Consider this: if EMFs can subtly interfere with human sleep, focus, and emotional regulation, as many sensitive individuals report, it is not unreasonable to assume that the same invisible signals might affect organisms that rely on highly sensitive internal rhythms, like plants. Now let's explore the energetic aspect. In Feng Shui, placing a healthy green plant in a room is like placing a living battery of positive energy. Plants attract and circulate qi. They soften sharp corners, refresh stagnant air, and neutralize electromagnetic pollution to a degree. But when placed too close to a TV, especially on the same surface or stand, the plant's energy becomes overwhelmed. Instead of radiating vibrancy, it begins to absorb toxicity. This reversal creates what Feng Shui practitioners refer to as sick wood energy, a stagnant, drained life force that can actually pull down the vibration of the entire room. You may notice that your living space feels heavy, or that you feel more sluggish in the evening, even when you haven't done anything exhausting. That's often a clue that something in the room is energetically off balance, and dying plants near the TV may be part of the reason. I once visited the apartment of a friend who kept a gorgeous fiddle leaf fig plant right next to her 55-inch TV. It had been lush and vibrant for the first few months after she bought it. But over time, despite watering, fertilizing, and even rotating it, the plant began to shed leaves, develop brown spots, and lose its color. She thought it was due to winter or dry indoor air. But after moving the plant just 6 feet away from the TV, closer to the window and out of the electromagnetic zone, it began to recover. Within weeks, new leaves emerged, and the deep green vibrancy returned. This isn't an isolated story. Countless plant lovers report that certain corners of the home, especially near screens, routers, or power strips, seem to be dead zones for plant life. And while it's tempting to blame ourselves, the problem often lies in the energy the plant is trying to survive within. It's also worth noting that dying plants themselves become energy drains. In spiritual and energetic terms, a withering plant symbolizes loss, stagnation, and decay. It pulls the overall qi downward and may reflect deeper stagnation in your life, whether financial, emotional, or creative. If your money seems stuck, your sleep is off, or you keep hitting emotional walls, check your environment. Is there a plant dying slowly beside your television? Another concern is how these sick plants affect your mood. Our brains are wired to respond positively to green living things. They trigger a sense of connection, calm, and life. But when you walk past a drooping fern or a browning snake plant every day, your subconscious absorbs that message. Something is failing. Something isn't thriving. Over time, it wears you down emotionally, even if you are not fully aware of it. So what can you do instead? First and foremost, respect the plant's natural needs. Keep it at least 3 to 6 feet, about 1 to 2 meters, away from any active electronic device, especially the TV. Ideally, position plants near windows with indirect natural light, where they can breathe, photosynthesize, and tune into Earth's natural rhythms, not artificial pulses. Choose heat-tolerant species if space is limited. Snake plants, money trees, and pothos are more resilient near warm environments, but they still should not be placed directly beside or on top of your television console. Create separation using shelves, partitions, or even room dividers. If you must keep greenery in the same visual field as your TV, consider artificial plants for that zone. But remember, fake plants offer no energetic benefits. They're decor, not vitality. One clever technique is to use ceramic or earthen pots, which provide grounding energy and some insulation from heat and EMFs. Terracotta, for example, is a great choice for buffering environmental stressors. Also, make sure your plant isn't in a plastic container, which can trap heat and block airflow to the roots. Another mindful tip: rotate your plants regularly. Give them a chance to recover by alternating their placement in the room. This way, even if you're limited in space, you're not subjecting one living thing to constant stress. If you practice energy cleansing or mindfulness rituals, include your plants. Wipe their leaves, thank them. Use incense or Palo Santo to clear the air near your devices. The more you treat your plant as a living companion, the more it will respond positively. Lastly, trust your observations. If you notice that plants consistently die in one corner of your living room, pay attention. The space is speaking to you. Your job is to listen and respond. To summarize, placing plants near your television may look beautiful on Instagram, but it often leads to invisible consequences. The clash between life energy and electromagnetic chaos creates tension that affects not only your plants, but the entire atmosphere of your home. By making a few thoughtful changes, moving plants away from electronics, providing better light, and creating energetic separation, you restore balance. And in doing so, you'll find that your home feels more alive, more calm, and more in harmony with the natural rhythms of life. Section 3. Story time. When I started moving things around. A few years ago, before I became deeply immersed in mindful design and energy-conscious living, I had what I considered a pretty normal living room. It was cozy, well-lit, and carefully arranged with all the things I loved. My favorite diffuser that gently puffed out lavender oil every evening. A few meaningful, decorative objects, including a small stone Buddha statue I had picked up on a trip to Chiang Mai, and of course, a sleek flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. To me, it was perfect. I didn't think much about how these things interacted. Why would I? The statue looked beautiful on the floating shelf directly above the TV. The diffuser sat neatly beside it, releasing calming aromas into the space. I even had a little jar of fresh eucalyptus branches right on the TV console. I'd arranged everything for aesthetics, color balance, symmetry, style. And yet, something didn't feel right. At first, it was subtle. I'd wake up tired, even after 8 hours of sleep. Then came the scattered focus during my morning meditations, like my mind wouldn't settle, even in the quiet. Over the weeks, I noticed something strange. My sleep had become lighter. I'd wake up multiple times at night, always around 2 or 3 a.m. My dreams were more chaotic. I started to feel foggy during the day, sluggish in ways I couldn't quite explain. But it wasn't just me. My TV began acting up too. The screen would occasionally flicker for no reason. Sometimes the Wi-Fi connection would drop only on that one device, even though everything else in the house worked fine. There was one evening when the diffuser randomly stopped working mid-cycle, just a few weeks after I had refilled it. I chalked it up to coincidence, to Mercury retrograde, or maybe just life being weird. Still, something was gnawing at me. One weekend, I sat on the couch and did something I rarely had time for. I just looked around the room, slowly and intentionally. And then it hit me. Everything I had placed around the TV was either sacred, water-based, or emotionally significant. My diffuser, water element. My statue, spiritual resonance. My plant, wood element. And the TV, fire and metal. High energy, chaotic and constant, even in standby mode. I didn't fully understand it at the time, but intuitively I knew these things didn't belong next to each other. The harmony I had been trying to create was energetically mismatched. Each item I placed was working against the others, not because they were bad, but because their energies were being drowned out by the constant pulse of the television. That evening, I did a soft reset of the space. I unplugged the TV, I removed the statue and placed it on a high wooden shelf across the room. The diffuser I moved near my bedroom window, a quieter corner where I often read or reflect. I gently wiped down the area, lit a candle just for grounding, and let the space breathe. And the difference? Immediate. The next morning, I woke up without that heavy fog for the first time in weeks. I hadn't even realized how drained I'd felt until I didn't anymore. Over the following days, I noticed my sleep became deeper. I no longer jolted awake at 3 a.m. The room itself, and this is going to sound strange, felt more alive. It was brighter, though I hadn't touched the lighting. The air felt clearer, though I hadn't cleaned any more than usual. The atmosphere had shifted. It was no longer trying to do too many things in one corner. Even the technology responded. My TV stopped flickering. My diffuser started running normally again. I felt more drawn to spend time in that space, not for entertainment, but for being present. This experience taught me something that no book or workshop had ever put into words for me. Sometimes it's not about throwing things away. It's not about buying new stuff or purging your life. It's simply about placing things where they can support you, not drain you. It's about understanding that even your home is a system of relationships between objects, between elements, between the visible and the unseen. When items are placed with awareness, they amplify peace, focus, and renewal. But when they're forced into spaces that energetically oppose them, they create friction. And that friction shows up in our sleep, our thoughts, our moods, and our luck. So if you've been feeling off lately, maybe tired, anxious, overwhelmed, or just not quite at home in your own home, I encourage you to take a slow look around. Not to judge, not to change everything at once, but to listen. What objects are sitting near your TV? What lives next to your Wi-Fi router, your speakers, or your power strip? What energies are being asked to coexist that might not want to? Because sometimes the answer isn't more effort, more cleansing, or more discipline. Sometimes it's as simple as moving one object 3 feet to the left. Section 4, final, the energy around you is speaking. Every home has a story, not just in how it looks, but in how it feels. And sometimes that story is written not with words, but with placement. A statue here, a potted plant there, a stack of books beside a glowing screen. At first, we hardly notice. These are the quiet decisions we make when we move in, when we decorate, when we clean. But as days become weeks and weeks become months, the energy of our space begins to echo back to us. This video wasn't just about televisions. It wasn't just about books, clocks, or plants. It was about awareness, the subtle relationship between what surrounds you and what moves through you. In Section 1, we explored why the television, something most of us consider a passive piece of furniture, is actually one of the most energetically active objects in our homes. It emits heat, light, sound, and electromagnetic waves. It holds fire and metal energy. And the corner where it lives, often the center of our living space, can become a chaotic vortex if we aren't mindful of what we place around it. In Section 2, we look deeper at 3 everyday items that many of us place near the TV without realizing their long-term energetic impact. Books, with their wood element, symbolize quiet, concentration, and steady growth. But when placed next to a television, their stillness gets burned out by the TV's fire. It becomes harder to focus, harder to retain information, and even harder to relax near them. We explored how this subtle clash can affect everything from your children's study habits to your own reading life, and how simply moving them to a quieter part of the room can restore their grounding effect. Clocks, which represent time and order, bring metal energy and rhythmic regulation to a space. But side by side with a television, their calm pulse can be overtaken by flashing screens and audio shifts. The result? A subtle but chronic sense of restlessness, anxiety, or pressure. A feeling that you're running out of time, even when you're just watching a show. By moving your clock to the opposite wall or a different room entirely, you allow its steady rhythm to serve you again, instead of competing for attention. And then there are plants, living, breathing, green companions, carriers of the wood element and sources of life force. When we place them near TVs, we subject them to dry heat, flickering light, and EMFs, conditions that stifle growth, confuse their biology, and lead to silent decay. A dying plant is more than just decor gone wrong. It's a symbol of blocked vitality. And when we move them to a better lit, calmer corner, they respond, they revive, they heal. And in their healing, they begin to heal the space. These aren't grand gestures, they're small changes, and yet they matter deeply. In Section 3, I shared my own story, not as an expert, but as someone who learned through trial, error, and intuition. I talked about the time I unknowingly placed a statue, a diffuser, and a sacred item too close to my television. At the time, I was simply arranging things in a way that looked good. It was aesthetic, it was symmetrical. But within weeks, my sleep quality declined. My technology acted up. I felt drained in my own living room. When I paused and paid attention to that space, noticing how it felt, not just how it looked, I decided to move things around. Nothing drastic, just a few thoughtful adjustments. I unplugged the TV when not in use. I moved the sacred object to a calmer corner. I gave the diffuser its own space near natural light, and the shift was immediate. Not only did my sleep improve, but my mind quieted. The space began to feel nourishing instead of noisy, lighter, clearer, calmer. And so I invite you to ask yourself, what is your space saying back to you? Not in words, in feelings, in the way you breathe when you sit down, in the quality of your rest at night, in how long you linger in one room versus how fast you walk through another. Is your home supporting your energy or draining it? So often we think we need to buy more, fix more, do more. But the truth is, sometimes we just need to move a few things. And that's really the heart of this video. Awareness, stillness, choice that the objects in your home are not just passive things. They hold meaning, they hold charge, they influence how energy moves around you. And by adjusting them with care, not fear, you invite new flow into your life. It's not about becoming minimalist. It's not about making your space look like a catalog. It's about asking, what do I want to feel when I walk into this room? And what might be standing in the way of that? So now I turn this over to you. Look around your home, not with judgment, but with curiosity, with compassion. Choose one object. Maybe it's a book that's been lost beneath the TV. Maybe it's a small plant struggling beside your console. Maybe it's a clock that ticks a little too loudly near your screen. Move it. Give it space to breathe, and then give yourself space to notice what shifts. Maybe your focus sharpens. Maybe your sleep deepens. Maybe your next big idea finds its way in. Because your home is more than shelter. It's a reflection of you. And when you take care of your space, it begins to take care of you in return. Before we close, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you're going to move today? What part of this video resonated most deeply? Have you ever noticed a space in your home feeling off, only to realize it was the arrangement, not the object? If this video brought you value or insight, I gently invite you to support this channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. It helps more than you know and allows me to continue creating thoughtful, meaningful content like this for the New Day Mindfulness community. And if it inspired you, please share it with a friend or loved one who could use a little clarity in their space too. In our next video, I'll walk you through how to create a calming energy corner in your home using just 3 simple objects you already own. It's one of my favorite practices, and I think you'll love it. Until then, I leave you with this. Your home listens to you. It responds to what you place in it and how you care for it. It absorbs your emotions, holds your memories, and quietly shapes your future. So today, honor it, move with intention, and trust that when your environment feels right, everything else begins to flow. This is New Day Mindfulness. See you in the next video.